Howdy, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Cowboys of the Osage podcast. Coming to you from right over here at the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum, located in historic downtown Pawhuska, Oklahoma. It's old Cody over here, and as always, I have Mr. Rodeo historian himself, Jimbo Snively, my co-host. Hey, Jimbo, what's going on today, and who do we got?
Hey, Cody boy, it's just another great day in Osage, and we've got an old friend, the one and only Jimmy Smith from Denton, America. Everybody remembers Smith Brothers Productions and Smith Brothers Ropes. He was just a great friend of rodeo world and steer ropers in particularly. I still got a horse trailer I won down there. He put on all those big ropings. He was world famous Smith Brothers back in the day. Still is, I guess. But we want to welcome Jimmy to the museum, Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum, and the Cowboys of the Osage podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I tell you what, I walked in here a little while ago and they said, hey, let's talk about ropes and let's do a podcast about the old days. And I said, let's go. And I just got to tell you right off the bat, I walked in here about, back during the Ben Johnson and checked out the museum. And Cody's done a wonderful job in here. And, you got a lot of history here. And if you haven't been here, stop in. I talked to ropers. Have you stopped in and seen the museum? And they said, I'm going to stop next time. But I was like, you got to go see it. He's done a lot of work, and he's got a stack of stuff in the back, and he's going to expand. And across the street, he's got the bucking flamingo, and he's got a string of turquoise that'll go from here to Tucumcari, New Mexico, and a bunch of other wonderful stuff for sale. But get up here and check it out. And you got the Pioneer Woman up here too. And this little town's really thriving. They're shooting the movie here the last month or so, and boy, it's really coming to life. And I used to ride through here with Delbert Kyler back in the old days, and I'd say, Delbert, you got a lot of really cool buildings down here. And back then, he'd say, they're just a bunch of old buildings, And but it's really coming to life. So if you get up in this neck of the woods, dive over here and take it in. You'll really enjoy it, and plenty of good food. And the museum's totally a treat, and you'll find you something over at the Buck and Flamingo. And sounds like that's a paid commercial, but I'm telling you, it's real, y'all. So get up here.
I didn't even pay him anything for all that, Jimbo. Can you believe that?
That's a pretty good endorsement right there.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. That means a lot coming from you. But let's get down to business here. Jimmy, your family, did you grow up loving the Western way of life? When did you become such a lover of the Western way of life? And where did you grow up at?
Well, I grew up in Billings, Montana, and I lived there till I was 10 years old, moved to Texas, hook up with the great Dr. T.K. Hardy, which was roped up here a million times. You could almost put him in the museum. He loved coming to Osage County and the Ben Johnson so much, but grew up down there roping with him and met Sonny Davis and Ronnie Seawalt and Olin Young and Randy Moore that started the Seniors Association. And, as a kid, you get out there tying those steers and it grows on you. And then I always had the dream of doing a Western store when you're a kid, but it's, my dad worked for Farnham Horse Care Products out of Phoenix, Arizona, and that's what took us to Texas from Montana. And then we started the rope and supply deal, just selling ropes out of the back of a car, and then it kind of grew and grew, and then my dad quit Farnham and started really kicking it up. And back then, if you remember on the internet, it'd say, if you ordered something, allow 5 to 6 weeks for delivery. Bezos with Amazon, he'd shake his head at that. But anyway, my dad started saying, hey, if you call in before 4 o'clock, the FedEx truck or UPS truck comes at 4:30, let's get it out in the mail. So basically, no matter where you lived in the United States, you had your rope in 3 or 4 days, which was unheard of back then. And that really took off in the family. As my dad was a driver, Johnny Smith, and my mom, she was more the bookkeeper, and my brother, we were kind of the workhorses, and we kind of always, we never got in trouble growing up. We always did what Dad said. We always, worked hard and, lived the American dream. You get up and go after it, and it's out there. So we kind of lived that all through life. And, then we started selling ropes to Western stores around the country, and the business started growing. And then the support of all you ropers that are out there today, that there's so many Western stores out there now, and so many great Western stores. And I think my dad never knew that it would really grow as big as what it's grown. It grew a lot in his lifetime, and he met his dreams, and then he loaded up, moved to Brazil back, he's been past now 10 years, but he moved down there 20 years ago. I guess America wasn't big enough for him, so he had to go down there and check out all the Brazilian world down there, and those ranches down there from Pawhuska to Oklahoma City, they're huge. But anyway, the dream that he had, he kind of kicked it up in the mail order deal in the Western store, and then we moved up on I-35 in Denton, Texas, and then in about 1980 we started with the World Champion Junior Calf Roping. We had that the very first year. Tuffy Cooper from Monument, New Mexico, Roy Cooper's dad, and my dad and I and Mark Mudd, we all thought about that, and we decided to do it. We had it down at Northside. Bob Tallman, Walt Garrison's whole crew, we put it on. I think we had 130 ropers that first year down there. It was a heck of an event, not because we put it on, but at that time there was no junior roping. And
what about now, though? They're everywhere, Jim.
Oh, they're everywhere,
Jimmy,
baby. They're everywhere.
Just as big or bigger than the biggest one.
Barry Burke has a big one. Joe Beavers has them. Ricky Canton has them. I mean, they got them on every corner anymore. But back in the day, there wasn't much for a junior roping, and that roping, I did it up till the last 20 years, and then Roy Cooper, I said, Roy, why don't you just take this over, and you start doing it because you got the Cooper name, and your dad started it with us, and by then our store, we all kind of went on and did other things in life, and everybody went their own direction, which would have been shoot back in about 2000, and so Roy picked it up, and it's now called the Roy Cooper World Champion Junior Calf Rope, and it just got over with last weekend on July 4th, and we just had the 19 and under back in the day, and shoot, names like Trevor Brazil, Cody Old, Fred Whitfield, James Zant, Billy Ford, a bunch of people that made the national finals and won that rope, and so
it was the one to win, Jimbo.
It was.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up
Absolutely.
for a kid, there wasn't any other big roping for the young kids except maybe the national high school finals or something like that, and this was right on par with that. Everybody knew in the roping world who won Smith Brothers Junior Calf Roping.
Right.
Every year.
That's right.
That's no doubt about it.
And then now, like Roy, now it's been a 4-day event. He's had 12 and under, 13 to 15, and all the different age groups. So, we had just a 1-day roping, which you had roped 19 calves in 1 day, which is a lot in July in Texas. So, best man shows up, he's going to be the winner. But Roy's done a good job and moved on from there, and so that roping still is alive, and all the steer ropings we had down there at Smith Brothers and seniors and old timers, we had them all there back in the 80s. And in 82, we had the BFI team roping back there. My dad and Bob Feist were good friends, and Clay O'Brien, Jake Barnes said that was the deepest arena they ever roped in. They won the roping at the time, and we just built the arena, got finished with it, and we had like 8 inches of sand hauled in the black Texas gumbo, and we had a big tiller come in. It rained for 4 days before, and we had the pre-ropings over at the Cobble Arena across the road, and they tilled that arena, and I guarantee it's 2 feet deep. So, but Clay O'Brien, Jake Barnes were the winner back then, and it was a super good roping.
Hey, when you first started with this catalog business, I think they may have been one of the very first rope catalog businesses out there. I'm not sure. Would it be between you and King's, maybe?
Exactly. King is a wonderful business, wonderful family. They've done so much, and that's another great place. If you hadn't been up there and seen their museum, you've seen it up there.
Oh, yeah, that's second to none up there. Holy moly.
Yeah.
King's.
That's the grill of the saddles up there, isn't it?
Eventually, mine's going to look like that here.
There you go, baby. Bring it. Y'all got anything to bring down to Cody, bring it down here so we can keep her rolling.
Bring it down. We'll stock it up like they did up there at King's. They got just... Have you been up there, Jimbo?
No, I've heard a lot about it. I've seen pictures.
They have stuff just on top of stuff on top of stuff in there. It's one of the most cram-packed museums. You could spend 2 or 3 days looking in there at every single little piece they have. It's great. It's really, really great.
Yeah. And Bruce King and his wife, Danny, they're all right there on the floor every day, so they doing a good...
It's a good family business to this day still, right?
Yes, sir, totally. And then... but back then, it was Kings and us, I guess, basically. And there was some other. Let's see, there was I think Lyles was doing ropes. Emmons Company was doing ropes. But where we kicked it up,
did they have the complete catalog like you guys have? You got the tack, you got the ropes, you got it all.
Kings did, I think, then. But where we kicked it up, we got those road rigs. Remember those chrome road rigs all shined up? They went to every PRC rodeo on the tour. I mean, from Salinas, California to Pecos, Texas to Georgia. I mean, they made the rounds, and I don't know if they made any money or not, but they got us a lot of exposure. Had a lot of great ropers on the side in those pictures, and they toured around the country, and that got us going. Then the mail order, and it started picking up.
It was before the internet. You had to get the word out somehow, Jimbo.
Phone call, baby.
Cody, I remember every time I went to Smith Brothers, They didn't care how I did, or don't bring me back any ropes, bring some hats back. Everybody wanted those Smith Brothers hats.
Oh, yeah. They were great hats, the Smith Brothers hats, about like the King rope hats.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to have to get some more Smith Brothers hats made up.
Yeah.
Jimmy, those were really, really great hats.
I used to have a pink one that I wore roping in it, and everybody just loved it,
How many catalogs would you guys send out on an average year?
I don't know. My dad would spend whatever to any address that you got you a Smith Brothers catalog. I mean, they went everywhere, and I remember back in the house back in the day, there was, like you said, no internet. But if that phone rang, everybody had a phone by their bed or in the living room. You grab that phone and you answer it. So, because out on the West Coast, when it's 10 o'clock in Texas, it's like 8 o'clock out there. So, they're ready to order rope. So you always you had a pad of paper and you took the order and it got out the next day. So my dad was adamant about that. And my dad never roped. That was the interesting thing about that. He grew up wanting to be a cowboy, and he has cowboy boots, but he never did rope. And but he just fell in love with the business. And I tell you what, our logo, if y'all remember back in the day, was a steer roper, and it said Smith Brothers Roping Supplies, kind of an old school looking logo, and had a tripper in it. And later on, my brother changed it and put the star in the middle of it, and which my father I don't think liked that very good. But anyway,
I like both logos. They both look good, Jimmy.
But anyway, back then the logo was a steer roper, and my dad loved steer trippers. So that's that. He grew up around Doc Hardy and Sonny Davis and all them. So that was kind of the driving force that they were in. Paul Turney and Tom Ferguson and Roy Cooper were all coming by the place. So that kept him going with knowledge of kind of what was right and what was wrong at the time.
What was the story on your dad? He had an interesting background. And
on who's that?
On your dad.
Oh, shoot. Well, he worked for Starboard, like Golden Malin Sugar Bait first. Then he worked for Farnham Horse Care Products. And then before that, in Billings, Montana, he was in Parker Veterinary Supply. He was always a salesman,
Yeah.
He just loved selling. He was always good at it,
Right.
I think like Bob Tallman said in his obituary deal, he said Johnny Smith could sell ice to an Eskimo. I thought that was kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, but he liked selling. He loved people,
Yeah.
And I always said the deal. I hope my mother's not listening. She never will hear this. She'd charge you double, my dad would give it to you. And that was kind of the way the family went. Down the road where that stopped the growth of it because two different ideas and two different thought processes. So anyway, it was a good run, and I want to thank all y'all for coming all those years and supporting Smith Brothers. And like Jimbo said, we left with 4 Smith Brothers caps, and they scattered all around the country, but you let us live our dream. You let us all work and be part of something, and it never did make. Everybody said, "Why'd you get out of it?" And I said, "I made so much money. I filled up 2 or 3 safes, and I can't find another safe." Well, that's wrong. Like my dad always said, it made a good living for all of us, and we always could, get a couple pair of jeans and a new truck every 2 or 3 years. But we all had to work. We got up in the morning and went at it from sun up to sundown, and stayed out of trouble. And like I said before, my brother and I, we didn't do trouble, and so it was a good life to it. But thanks to all of the Cowboys and the people that supported us over the years, and we always tried to give a value back to all the customers out there.
What about your ropes? Jimmy, did y'all tie your own ropes?
No, Dennis Willard Rope Company, which still exists today.
Yeah.
Dennis and my dad struck up a conversation way early on, and he always hired Dennis to do. Back in the day, if a lot of you guys will remember those Solar Age ropes, the nylons that came in 600-foot spools, which nowadays they spin so many of them, 25 or 30 foot or 35 at a time. But they came in those big spools from Plymouth, New England Rope Company, and you had to lay them out in the sun to get the wax off them. And but Dennis Willard down at Rockdale, he always tied them all up for us over the years. And there were some other ropers that tied them for a while. Emmons tied some, and Ricky Lyles tied some, but basically Dennis Willard was the go-to. Send a trailer down, take an empty trailer down, and had racks all in it, and bring back a loaded one every week from Dennis Willard. Yeah,
there were a lot of rope companies down there. They had Callaway ropes, Emmons ropes,
Cotter ropes,
Cotter ropes. I remember Cotters.
Yeah, he made the good grass ropes, and then King made the good grass ropes, and then Ricky Lyles, and then Cotter, he roped all the time also, And,
I was when I moved down to Fort Worth to work for Doug Dugan, that's where they practiced bulldog, and right there at Cotter's rope place where they built all the grass ropes, because all of them that worked over there were all bulldoggers,
right.
actually. So
right.
That's where they bulldogged, right at the Cotter Rope Factory. And then I think they ended up switching hands later in life a couple times, that Cotter Rope Factory, I think. But yeah. Small world. We were down there practicing bulldogging back in the day, Jimbo. I was building playgrounds and bulldogging and drinking a lot of beer, too.
Right. Heavy on the beer.
So was it Labor Day and Memorial Day is when you had your big steer opens down there?
Shoot, we would have the tripping. That was our logo, and we always had the very first one. We had the Billy Bob's World Champion steer roping back in the old days. I think Phil Line won it back.
Wow.
Our very first, Phil Line.
Billy Bob's World Champion steer roping.
Yep. I don't know if he was from Three Rivers or Cotulla at the time, but Phil Line. I got a picture of Phil Line and I got to get him to sign that someday. The legend,
sure.
Phil Line.
He's one of the best to ever live.
You got it.
For sure.
I think he had 4 steer, like a series of non-winners.
Yes,
he called them non-winners, Cody, but the criteria was he couldn't have made the finals the last 3 years or something.
Good memory, Jimbo. What a memory.
And it was tough.
One of the last 3 years or 2 of the last 3 years, something like that.
Yeah, I think it changed along the way. You had to change.
But I mean, it was just a who's who of steer ropers. It was tough.
I think they have 80 steer ropers show up down there.
Yeah.
Shoot,
They
now
were
at the
big.
first we always give away 10 buckles, belt buckles,
I've still got
first
one.
through 10, and then I would give away a trailer. I think there at the end I gave a trailer away for the best of the 3 series. But to answer your question, Memorial Day, 4th of July, no, not Labor Day, and then Lazy. Then later on, remember when Lazy got to kicking, I'd have one up there in the fall. But we have about 3 of those, and we'd have some old timers ropings. We'd have the seniors old timers steer ropings along with them that Randy Moore started up. And then we'd have the senior calf ropings that Lee Cockrell had years ago. And then we had the Betty Gill Cooper all-girl roping for a lot of years. And that was before all these girl ropings, breakaways blowed out the roof anymore. And back then, still back then at our place, I think we had, that one summer, like 120 girl breakawayers, but, as hard as we all pushed, it never would take off, you could never, I don't know. And I went to NASCAR in 2000, and I learned so much about the marketing world of getting sponsorship money. And all those years I did it, I just winged it, paid it out of my own pocket, which was tough, it's just, a lot of times you'd you wouldn't charge them cattle fee or stock fee, and then you'd, make it where they could win something. And then we'd have those weekend barrel races and a lot of weekend stuff, just anything, any of it you wouldn't do one event at a time. Like you'd have a barrel racing and a practice team roping, and they'd make $300 and practice barrel racing and make $400, and a jackpot team roping and make $1,500. Well, you add them all up at the end of the week, you got $2,500 there at home. Which pays the bills and lets you move down the road doing what you want to do.
Yes, sir.
Steer business, that. Your family's been in that. That's big money right there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You want to get rich, just get in the rope and steer business.
Get Rocky on the phone and see how much he made in the steer business.
Well, we were just fixing to circle back to that. Jimbo, they just didn't have the store, as we know, and didn't just produce events. These guys right here, they had all the rope and steers at one time.
Oh, absolutely.
The main rope and steer producers of the world for over a decade.
And that's where you bought your
Maybe
practice
2.
steers,
You rented them from them.
Oh, well, I bought them. Me and Delbert used to buy them. Scott Stickley used to bring them up here, I remember it well.
They invented the steer lease thing where you can just lease some rope and steers then for so long, and then you rope them, and then you send them back to them, and you get more. I'm not sure how exactly it all worked.
Cody,
so how'd you come around in the rope and steer business?
Cody, can I break that down, how that steer deal works?
Yeah.
Everybody knows you buy them, they cost $500.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
When you sell them, they're weighing 600 and they bring 50 cents a pound, that's $300.
Yes.
So any banker will tell you, do not go into this business. You buy a poor steer from Mexico, skin and bones, prettiest set of horns in the world, a Corriente, not a Longhorn now. So you buy him for $500, you feed him and get him weighing 600, he brings $300. You lose $200 the day you get him, right? And then you start, Rocky's done, y'all have done that math before. So then you start taking them to the steer trippings, and that'd pay $25 a run. Then after that, you take them to team ropings, and that'd pay you, I don't know, $8 a run, $7 a run, whatever you could get. And then after that, as you started taking the sets of team roping steers, then you'd put them into the lease program. And then you'd lease them out $25 a month and get your money paid half the time. Because a lot of those ropers, they wanted to be a world champion instead of doing their job downtown. So some of those,
most of us that roped, were that way.
Yeah.
Roping's like drugs, sort of.
Yeah, when I got out of the steer leasing business, I think I had $500,000 accounts receivable. Over 15. Some of them ropers just forget to pay.
Yes, sir.
So
that'll happen.
That'll happen
when you're leasing steers to ropers sometimes.
Yeah.
And everybody mad at you too because you brought that steer, this steer, that got up and all this. You make a lot of friends too.
Yeah. And let me say this. Here's the hard thing. When you get them in, like I did Cheyenne for 3 years, you start getting those steers together in December. Cheyenne's in July. As you all know, it's going on right now this weekend, the daddy of them all.
Yep.
So you get the steers in December, and I did those 3 years I did it. I did the bulldog and this trip, in which takes 600 total steers, and so you get those in. That's $300,000 worth of steers. You feed them till it's time to go to the roping. They wanted them weighing 600 pounds. So then you get done with it up there, and you bring them home to rope. And back then, well, even now, but back then, nobody wanted to trip 600-pound steers. So you had to draw them down and then sell what you can, disperse what you could. And when you left Cheyenne, you got a check for $50,000. Well, the trucking was $20,000. Well, that leaves you 30. Well, you can imagine the feed bill feeding all those steers and traveling and putting them together up until you get to the Cheyenne Rodeo. So it was just like, it sounds like a good deal and a big deal, and it was fun, don't get me wrong, but it's just hard to make it work. It's hard to make, then I did, Denver, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Houston. I did the Wendy Ryan roping. That's kind of where I got started right there. Old Lanham Riley was in charge of it back then, and Mac Altizer had the deal. I remember like yesterday, and Mac said, "Hey, do you want this deal up here, the calves in the steer roping steers?" And shoot, I was just getting going. I said, "Sure, I'd love it." So he said, "All right, you just do it. Start gathering them up." Mac had Bad Company Rodeo going every direction in the world at the time, and rodeos all over the country, and selling T-shirts and caps, and they're scattered all over the country. So anyway, Mac tells me to handle it. So Lanham calls me about a month later, and he goes, "Hey, Jamie, are you Jamie Smith?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Mac told me that you were at the time I was probably 23 years old, and I had no credibility in the steer world at all." And he said, "Mac said you're going to put together all these steers and these calves for the Wendy Ryan rope." And he said, "I'd like to come up and meet with you." And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Have you already started putting them together?" And I think it was about 3 months before the Ryan. I said, "Yes, sir. Come on up. I'll show you what I got." Well, I showed him the calves, and I showed him the steers, and showed him, every situation. And he kind of knew my dad, from the rope world. So he was comfortable with it, but he did come check on me about every 2 weeks, make sure we were dialed in talking turkey. So that was kind of where it got kicked off right there. Then I got into, scattering all around the country. And I think there at the most I had about, 3,500 steers scattered all over. It's about like a Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey circus.
Oh, wow.
So...
Yeah, you did every rodeo for a while. I think you were maybe the only steer roping stock contractor in business at one time. You were even coming up here to Pawhuska.
Yeah, I did.
Putting on ropings.
I did the great Pawhuska roping up here with Roy Ball and Miss Case Bolt and Rose. She did the books and a great bunch of the club ropings. I think that are out at Delbers. I think that's the same ropings today.
Yeah, it's the same one.
And that was a wonderful group of people. And we'd roll up on. I think they were on Sunday. Roll up on Saturday night and put them out. And then I did the Ben Johnson there for 5 or 6 years, but what a great time up here in Osage County, and what a neat roping, and neat bunch of people, and really enjoyed that a lot.
How did you end up working your way out of the rope and steer business?
Well, it came along where it just, and I was real fortunate. I sold some land down there. That gave me a little bit of money, and my dad, he went to Brazil, and that, you just do the books on it every year. It's just such a hard business to make money in. And then, so I had an opportunity to go to NASCAR with Gary Bechtel from the Bechtel family that built the one of the contractors on the Hoover Dam. In '97, they put in the racetrack there in Texas, and my dad said, "Shoot, I'd load up and go see something different." So, the steer deal was just, it's making a living, but I was kind of ready to do something different, other than just, running up and down the border. I did it for 20 years, so it was neat. I always thought I'd cut back and do it about 1,000 head and just do the good ones and make good profit, but I never, I sold them out and got out of it. And then I went down there with him in North Carolina, and he sold his race team to Joe Gibbs, and so I got to hang out there with Coach Gibbs for the Super Bowl winner, 3-time of the Washington Redskins, and that was neat to see a corporate world that I never saw before, and meet so many different people from a whole nother world, and it was really an eye-opening experience, because my dad was kind of the hit you in the mouth till you get after it and go do it, never explain nothing, just get it on, and Joe Gibbs, you learn from him. You win with great people all through life, just everything, and we used to hire every seemed like for a while every flunky that come through town that needed a job, and all it does, they're wrecking the trucks, they're tearing up the equipment, they're leaving the gate open, just leads to trouble after trouble. So I learned a lot there, just about life and about hiring good people and when they're in your workforce. You know that with all your business, you couldn't do all this up here you got going without all the people. What do you got? 10 employees?
Something like that, but I run it more like your dad did. My wife, she's the brains of most of the outfit over here, Jimbo. Jimbo and Jimmy. Yeah. They're really most of the brains. She's most of the brains over here. So you just kind of worked yourself out of the cattle business.
Yeah, and I miss the people totally. You miss, you come in here and see what you've done, and you get inspired, by what you've done. I went to Ben Johnson the other day and got to see John Miller. He was up there. Because I think Ben's his uncle, right? Ben Johnson,
right.
and John Miller, world champion team roper that's from Osage County. He's got a booth over here in your museum. Oh, yeah. And got to visit with him. And I hadn't seen John, I guess, in 15 years. And he hadn't aged one bit. Seen his lovely daughter and her boyfriend that sat up there and visited and talked old times. And that was neat. That was neat to see old John.
You hadn't aged too much either, Jimmy.
No,
you still look exactly the same as you always did.
30 years ago.
He lose a little weight, about 30 pounds.
You've been around a lot of characters through the years, and you did hit on something a while ago. Rex Cobble. Is he no longer living?
Shoot, Rex.
Okay,
Rex passed away. For you don't know who Rex Cobble is, he was.
Fill him in on who he is, and you had some ropings over there, the prelim ropings.
Yeah, 1960, he was a world champion cutting horse, 60 or 62, I think, and Cutter Bill. And back, he was a gold Palomino, kind of like those girls are running today in the barrel race, and they all want a gold Palomino. But Rex lived across the road, and he had the Rex Cobble Indoor Arena, which at the time was the premier. I mean, when you rolled in Texas, you walk in that front door, and there was gold belt buckles everywhere and trophies, and it was a neat place. And he had the Cutter Bill's Western store, but he'd always need my steers to cut, so we had a good relationship back then. And then any time I needed the arena, and he'd let me use the arena. And like in '82 when we had the BFI, we had all the pre-ropings over there. But 2 or 3 times a year, we'd end up using it. When you could put on your flyer, rope, rain or shine, and did in America, that was big back then. But nowadays there's a roping arena, indoor arena on every corner. But back in those days, so it sure saved me a lot. Over the years of being able to have a roping compared not to have a roping because of the weather factor.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, he didn't get all into the whole Rex Cobble story. There's a famous book out there named Cowboy Mafia. I encourage everybody to read it. It's about Rex Cobble and a bunch of these ragtag cowboys. Listen to this, Jimbo. All these, I hate to get off subject here.
No, go.
All these just ragtag cowboys, just like me or you, just some old guys working on a ranch or trading some horses somewhere. Well, they decide they're going to start smuggling marijuana into America somehow. And they all work for Rex Cobble. Don't know if Rex Cobble was involved in it or not, really. But anyway, these cowboys, they bought them some boats, Jimbo, and they drove these boats through the Gulf of Mexico, didn't know anything about driving a boat, never even had a boat in a lake or anything. And they hit the ocean in these boats and started, I guess, the largest marijuana smuggling in history right there. It was just all these ragtag cowboys up there. It's really an interesting story. It's called Cowboy Mafia. The book tells you all about it. It's really, really interesting. So I was trying to get Jimmy to tell you a little more about Rex there.
So, of course, with that going on across the road from us, everybody'd always say, are you in with Rex on all that? Which people are gonna, because I could.
I wasn't definitely.
No, because I could get the arena when nobody else did. But if you think about it, Rex needed to cut and steer. So we always had a great relationship. He needed cutting cattle, and I had tons of steers, and they fed them really good. And then in return, I could always get the arena. But then he went and served a little time and got, 3 years in Big Springs, Texas. And then when he came out, they were going to, all the trophies and everything, they were going to dispose of it, and they threw them out in our barn, and there was like a 5-horn mixer, paintings, and I guess anybody could have walked in and got them any day, but he came out, and after he got out and was getting them, and thanked us for putting them in the barn, because his daughter-in-law worked for my dad, and so they were out there in the barn, and all those trophies, so he sorted through them, and I said, well, Mr. Cobble, where are you going to go, or what are you going to do? He said, well, I don't really have any money, don't have anything. And I said, well, I just bought a house downtown Denton. Why don't you move in with me? And he goes, no. He goes, you've lived a clean life. You don't need my baggage in your life. I said, no. I said, you gave me a house years ago with that indoor arena, which was huge, to have a rope in if it rained. I said, you gave me a house when I didn't have one, so you don't have one now, so move in with me. And I had to really twist his arm, and I just bought a house, my first house, and I was so excited to get it downtown Denton and the big room and everything. So I twisted it hard and finally agreed to it. So I went over there and moved all my stuff in the smaller 2 rooms, and so he had to take the big room, and so I had to argue with him there. But anyway, so he lived with me there for a year, and then he ended up getting married to a lady by the name of Anna and lived out the rest of his life with her. And he died about, I think 5 years ago. So just old age. I think he died at about 85.
He's just being neighborly, Jimbo.
Yeah.
He was a neighbor doing the right thing, then he done the right thing when he got out.
Right. Sounds like a great story.
It really is. It really is. It's a wild story. It has a lot of twists and turns, and it's pretty wild. It really is.
It sounds like it.
What these guys just did, just with their, I'm just going to attribute it to their cowboy mentality.
What's the name of that book?
It's called Cowboy Mafia, I believe.
Okay.
Cowboy Mafia, the story of the Cowboy Mafia. So,
I always called him Texas legend Rex Gobble. He said, oh, don't tell me that. Don't be calling me Texas legend. I said, no, you the legend, baby. You the legend.
so you're wrapping up your steer business. I don't really know when you're starting to wrap up Smith Brothers Rope and Supply. I think it went on quite a long time afterwards. But NASCAR, racing cars, what got you all heated up to do car racing, Jimmy?
Well, I really did take a wrong road there. You know, anybody our age or anybody thinks they can drive a fast car. You know, we all go fast all our life, but let me tell you, that learning curve is about like roping a steer. You know, I mean, you take a city guy and put him on a horse and back in the box and tell him to go rope that steer around the horns. It's not happening.
It's the same with putting a cowboy behind the wheel of a race car.
Putting anybody behind, there's a learning curve out there. Ryan Jarrett, he's a professional driver, and I thought he stated it pretty good. He was winning the poles every weekend. If you watch any NASCAR, you've heard his name, Ryan Newman. Well, about, I don't know, it's been 25 years ago now. They said, hey, Ryan, in your relatively young career, you've won a lot of stuff, and he said, well, it's really not a young career. He said, I've been doing this since I've been 5 years old. So really, I've been doing this for 20, he's 25 years old. I've been doing this for 20 years, kind of like roping. We all start when we're little kids, and, we've been doing it all our life, so by the time we, now you see these kids, 23, 24 years old, be a world champion. Well, they've been packing that rope since they could walk, or bull rope or riding those steers at all those junior rodeos. So kind of the same thing. But how I got there, Bechtel was in it with the Bechtel family, and it was just something different and a big challenge, and it was, and and it's like anybody will say that it's on the outside looking in. It's kind of like steer roping. You take a city person to do a steer rope, and they're sitting up there and they don't see the flavor in the steer roping. You got to understand it. You got to know the ropers. You got to know something about it to appreciate it. And then like the NASCAR thing, the same thing, other than that, you hear people say, well, I'd rather watch paint dry, which, cars are going in a circle, and it's a big chess game until the last, 5 laps, basically. So,
did you make it all the way to NASCAR, Jimmy?
No, I drove a little bit of younger series, and I was more on the marketing end of it. I'd kind of got down there and seen what it was all about. And, when I went there, I thought, well, I can do this. Well, you can't. The learning curve is too steep, and the money's, you can just, those guys, by the time they get to be a professional, they've wrecked so many cars, kind of like roping, how many horses have you messed up? How many, so to get on that edge, to be a winner, you've got to tear up some equipment. So they've tore up millions of dollars worth of cars before, they ever go on and be a champion,
I got you. Oh, Dr. T.K. Harding, his grandson.
Partner, Dr. T.K. Harding. He called everybody partner. They said sometimes he couldn't remember the name, so he just called you old partner. Yeah, his grandson, little Tanner, we call him Little Doc. He's up here in your neck of the woods over here in Bonita, working at a ranch over here somewhere. But he loves the Western lifestyle, and he loves that old tripping. He comes down here and ropes, I think, every time they have a steer trip. And he asked me a while back, he said, you think I should keep on with this steer trip? And I said, Tanner, let me tell you, if you got a little extra change and you can afford it, go do it. But at some point, if you want a ranch, if you want to put something back, you can't just keep spending all your extra money on steer tripping unless you're winning.
Yeah, he's a good kid. He used to untie steers for us down there. We had we used to put on ropings down there at National Roper Supply.
Yes, sir.
In that indoor arena they built there. And Tanner, he'd come over there.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, he called me, I think about a year ago, and I didn't realize who he was. If he would have explained who he was, we would have had a little bit different conversation than we had that day.
What's his last name?
Tanner Dewey, D-U-W-E,
okay.
yeah.
I'll watch for him.
Which he's Dr. T.K. Hardy's grandson by Melanie Hardy, and then her sister is Cindy Hardy, which her daughter is Tara Bynum, and Joseph Bynum, which they both made the national finals roping also.
Yeah. T.K. Hardy, he was to not be from here, he couldn't have been more of a crowd favorite to Ben Johnson, you know.
A lot of people still talk about him around here all the time.
Yeah, he was something else.
He was a good fella.
Yeah, sure was.
Yeah, what they say? They say Dr. T.K. Hardy, number 24 in your program, number 1 in your heart. Dr. T.K. Hardy. Remember when he'd get off he'd tie that steer and he'd do the little jigaboo?
Yeah.
All you old timers out there, y'all remember that?
Yeah.
He'd do that jigaboo and he was so excited. He just loved it. I tell you what, I've roped that dummy out there under that light of his place 8 million times, and I don't think he's ever missed the dummy. Ever missed it. And then Cheyenne, I was thinking this the other day, he'd get them old ropes out a month before and go to powdering them up. Partner, it's one right here. I'm going to use an old Cheyenne.
Oh,
And back then, you take the whole family up there and spend the whole week up there, and watch the rodeo every day, and it's family vacation.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's the only vacation I ever had growing up was going to Cheyenne.
yeah, y'all did the steers up there for
And Pecos.
a lot of years. So
That's where I went on vacations growing up, Cheyenne or Pecos.
that's where you learn about life in Cheyenne and Pecos, right?
Oh, yeah, we learned everything. Well, in Kansas, they didn't allow fireworks because all the crops growing around
Yes,
there.
sir.
So if it'd be dry, they would outlaw fireworks. So Pecos was a big deal. Go down there and buy the fireworks when we were a kid. In fact, I think I wrote a check to C.A. Lauer when I was about 10 years old for like $100 to cash a check to go buy some fireworks, and he still has that check in his wallet to this day.
Hey, it's a good thing you never hooked up with old Sean Burchett, 2-time world champion steer roper, as Clem said, from Pryor Creek, Oklahoma. But old Sean, he used to come down and spend the summer when he was a kid with Doc down there at the house. And one time he talked them all, the girls, into taking him to the fireworks stand. Sean always had a little money in his pocket, And so he went over there and he bought the $100 pack, which you can imagine back in the day when a $100 pack would light up.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah, the big one. So they said, I don't remember, but they said he had fireworks all over, blowed up everywhere, paper. You can imagine the stuff blowed everywhere, but he blew the hole. He'd sneak out at night and let it rip on the 4th.
Boy, howdy. That's one guy that he could definitely easily be tying steers from that day to this day. He could just... If he could travel in time, he could be winning just as much now, I feel like, probably as he was then, right?
Oh, yeah. Nothing against Guy Allen, but I'd say if old Sean would have been around, there'd have been some, few more of them gold buckles that Guy had. They would have bumped heads on them gold buckles.
Well, Sean changed the game. I feel like he totally changed steer roping. Maybe Roy Cooper started a little bit, but Sean Burchett, he...
Don't forget Sonny Davis. So there wasn't anybody wilder than Ty one any faster than Sonny Davis could.
I don't know. Be a good match between him and Sean. Yeah. I don't know. Sean, I don't think anybody at the time, even Sonny, probably got off their horse as fast as Sean. And Sonny definitely wasn't going to string that top leg. I'll tell you that right now.
No.
I'll tell you that right now. And Sean started it and started everybody doing it.
String whatever comes your way. Get it on.
The first one you get to is what he told me when I was a little old kid. I said, "Son, why do you string the top leg, sir?" And he said, "Well, heck, that's the first one I get to, boy." So,
Roy tells this story, Roy Cooper. He said, Sean, when they used to rodeo together, they'd pull into rope and Sean would say, "Roy, how much are we going to get out of here with today?" It wasn't the thought process of, are we going to win anything? It's like, Roy, how much are we going to get out of here with today? That guy was a winner and loved winning, and he put in his time. Him and Scott Stickley, my old buddy Scott, they were really good friends. They spent a lot of years together, and he hauled Scott around, and Scott won the Rookie of the Year. They had a lot of good times, and I think old Rico Gonzalez hopped in there with them a little bit too.
Scott, he's still around roping every now and then. I saw him. Heck, I think at the Ben Johnson the other day he was roping.
Yeah.
That guy ropes pretty good. Mm-hmm. That guy ropes pretty good. So is this guy right here, Jimbo. It seems like whenever Jimmy would get bored, he'd go get him a steer horse and then go win a whole bunch of money from all of us.
Well, when I was roping, I didn't think he was roping. He just was out in the arena and made everything ever run good. And then when I quit, I got to reading about him and stuff, and he was competing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, back when we had all those trippings there at home, I always felt that it wasn't fair. Everybody said, why don't you rope in your own trippings? And there at the end, I roped in a few, but I always thought being the flagger, everything tilted my way. And I had enough to do with the tripping, but I never entered our own ropings there at home. I don't know. I just thought it was fair not to be part of it and take care of the arena end of it. But
looking back on it, I think that's the way to go. If you're putting on a roping, you need to put it on. You don't need to be roping in it.
Oh, there's enough problems go wrong. You know that.
Oh yeah. Well, I couldn't help but roping it. I was a roping junkie, Jimmy. I couldn't if I knew this roping, if I won probably 2 of the 3 go rounds and the average, and I was still going to lose about $100, that was worth going to that roping to me. That was worth it. To only lose $100 and win it all,
Yeah. Hey, I got to throw this out there. I tell you what, back to the steers. I did those steers for all those years, and there's a guy, and all y'all know him, the Fisher family from Andrews, Texas, Dan Fisher. He's got 2 boys that rope, Vin Fisher and J. Tom. And Dan's still competing today. He just roped at Cheyenne last week. He's got to have 1 knee replaced, and the doctors the other day thought that he would be good to go another year, and I don't know what is. He just had 70th birthday the other day, so he'll be running at him at 71 years old next year in the PRCA. And can still spit one out as quick as anybody.
He don't enter the old timers or anything like that.
We were talking about him the other day on the podcast.
Yeah, he's great. Old Dan, he's one of the best that's ever lived. Period. I don't think anyone's maybe had a longer rodeo career as him. Maybe even Ike Rude didn't. I'm not sure. That'd be a real toss-up between Dan. Your grandpa would have been one of them, but I think that Dan maybe outdid him now.
Yeah, he didn't last that long.
Well, quite a while, Jimbo. Just not in the steer roping, because he had, he was the bronc rider and a calf roper, and he worked his way up in the steer roping. He had a long rodeo career.
I'll go out on a limb and say Dan Fisher's the best 70-year-old steer roper there's ever been.
I think so.
Yeah, because he can still spit one out at 8 with the boys,
Well, we were wanting to put on a match between Dan and Bobby Brock. They're both 70.
Oh, yeah?
Both roping steers.
Well, I'm sure Fisher will fire up and go for it.
I think we should do it. I think it'd be a heck of a good match.
You better watch out. Fisher try to get that knot tying throat in there on it, too.
Well, you got to bring your own cattle. That's how we'll do it. Right. We know what Dan will bring, and then we know what Bobby will bring. So,
Hey, but I want to say this, and I've said it before, but my dad said when Dan Fisher walked into our lives, my family's, in the steer business, because I used to run them all down that border, and what it is, run up and down that border to try to find those good steers, about 10 out of 100 come across with good enough horns to trip. But that Dan, I'm going to tell you what, I got hooked up with him, for about the last 10 years I was in the business. But there's what he did for me. I'd owe him $100,000, and I'd have, doing all those things, I'd have another $100,000 on order. And I'd say, Dan, he said, I got that load of steers ready for you. The load of steers, you get 100 on a truck at 500, that's $50,000 bill, And I said, well, I don't have the money, so send a truck, coming your way, come get them. And my dad said, there's, when Dan Fisher walked into my life, it's like Jesus walking through the front door. And it really was, when you had somebody like him that was getting all those cattle, from the border down there and process, and he had, all those, you get in 10 loads, and then, out of the 10 loads, with 1,000 head, 100, 150 are good enough to do what I need to do. Then all those other, 800, he's selling to, team ropers and the potentials and all that. And that's just, I'm telling you what, I've seen that guy run up down that arena or those pens, Dr. Knows Cattle. Unbelievable. What a guy. Thank you, Dan Fisher. I love you.
I love you too, Dan Fisher. You know what he does? Jimbo, to stay in all that shape? I spent quite a bit of time in them pens, same pens Jimmy was at, actually. Between the semi and stand, between rodeos with them and things. He don't ride a horse. He don't open a gate. He climbs over every fence or every gate. That's how he stays in shape for all this 70-something years of steer roping.
Wow.
Ain't that something?
That is. He looks it, though. He doesn't look 70, he's trim and limber.
He looks good. Getting around good, too.
Yeah, that's what
Needs a knee, and he gets around good better than me. But he's one of the best. Vin and J-Tom, they both got a chance to win Cheyenne this year.
Yeah, they're going to both make short go, right?
They both made the short go. That's really something. And this year, I think it's whoever wins the short go wins Cheyenne in the steer roping. Mm-hmm. So they got a real chance, no matter where you come in the short go right there.
Well, then Dan, about 3 years ago, he had a chance to win it. No, the world champ, Trevor Brazil, snitched by him right there at the end for.
He's real bad about that.
Yeah, can you imagine that? But anyway, Dan ended up winning second that year, and then Dan, remember, he made the national finals team roping there for 3 or 4 years ago.
Back when they tied them, I think, too, Jimbo. Was it team tying or just
No, it was
regular
team roping. Is it when it was at Oklahoma City? And then
I think they did 5 team ties, 5 regular team roping runs.
Yeah, but they quit that before they moved. I forget what year they quit that, but
Yeah, but he went to Oklahoma City.
yeah.
Did.
But I mean, even when it was in Oklahoma City, I think they quit doing it before they moved to Vegas.
Did they?
I think.
Okay, I'm sure they did before they
Yeah,
moved to
yeah.
Vegas, for sure.
Hey, and then Dan's mother was a trick rider. I think she trick rode at New York, Madison Square Gardens, I think, and all those old-timer rodeos back in the day. And then his dad was M.M. Fisher and pro rodeoed all those years. And now they have the M.M. Fisher. Vin and J. Tom and Dan put it on out there in Andrews. It's like in March every year. And they raise about, $25,000 a year. All the profits from it they give to scholarships. So that's
It's a great roping out there. I've been to it a couple times.
Yep, super. And they have a golf tournament too. So you golfers, get out there. And I mean, they say the golf tournament's way better than the roping. And it's growing bigger than the roping. Everybody wants to golf. So
That's right. Jimmy, what do you think about what's happening to rodeo now and what's going on with the horses now? I mean, it's serious business. I feel like I feel like it's turning into a real professional sport almost, with the money that's up and what your equipment's costing and what your horses are costing.
Well, I've said this forever. What Patrick Gotch has done with RFD TV is unbelievable. I mean, I've thought that all along. The short go at Cheyenne, or the short go at Salinas, short go at Pecos, you can't watch it. I mean, you can't see. But now he's got every rodeo. I think they got a special now you can buy it for $99, and all the money goes into promoting RFD TV to keep it out there on the internet, and so you can get more rural broadband out there for all of us. And so he's bucking on that all the time, trying to get that. And I think he's having a hard time because those big communication companies don't want to put the broadband out there for all of us in the rural community. But RFD TV, what a thing to watch. I mean, for us to go home and see something about agriculture that we care about, it's the only channel I leave on TV. I mean, that or the Cowboy channel.
We can watch Cheyenne from our house now.
And they rip around, grab those other rodeos, and what a neat thing for an old timer sitting at home. I mean, you look at the warmth that's put in so many retired rodeo people's heart to watch a rodeo. I catch myself anymore watching the darn bronc riding and the bull riding as much as I do the roping. I mean, you just, it's all so good. And I've always said this, you go 300 deep in basketball, baseball, football. They're all making $1 million. You with me? In professional sports. You can't get past 2 deep. I mean, I don't even know if you can get past 2 deep in rodeo that are clearing $1 million. You think about it. I mean, that's how hard. And then you add this up. All those guys don't have to pay an entry fee. They don't have to call in and enter. They don't have to. They fly on an airplane.
They don't travel on their own expense.
They don't have to travel on their own expense. And if you're a timed event, you got a $70,000 trailer, you got a $70,000 truck, you got a $100,000 horse. I mean, you got $300,000. I mean, rolling plus practice. You got $300,000 of your own money. How good would those football players, baseball, basketball, if they had to have $300,000 growing up to be a world champ of their own money in the game? It's tough, And what I love about the rodeo thing is, and back home we have a thing in the name of my dad at the North Texas Fair, the PRCA Rodeo, the Johnny Smith Hard Work Award, and we give away 15 plaques and give those kids a $100 bill because, if without agriculture we have nothing. I mean, you have to eat in life. We love our sports, but you have to eat, and if it's not for those ag kids, so I kind of put my money behind them to keep them going because the whole world has to eat. And we love sports, but we got to keep those ag kids going. So,
well, some of the most I can't even think what I'm trying to say here, Jimbo. Some people that's achieved a whole lot in life came from an ag kid background because they know how to work hard, I feel like. And they got a real.
But like Jimmy said, this country couldn't exist without rural America. I mean, you just couldn't.
No way. That Cowboy channel is putting rodeo back mainstream. There's a lot of people that are getting you hear of them now. You hear some of these rodeo guys, they're getting plumb famous because of the RFD TV and the Cowboy channel. It's really something to see.
So many people are turned off at what's going on in the pro sports today, and I think it's really helped the Cowboy channel. People have turned to that Cowboy channel and RFD and stuff.
I do too.
And I'll tell you, they'll rear back and say the prayer, say the national anthem. I mean, like nobody. NASCAR, they'll say a prayer, national anthem, but you mean you got to take it off of those sports. I mean, that's what's all this country's gave all of us everything, I mean, everything. So, I just think it's something that I want to tip my hat to Patrick Gotch again, Pam Minnick, all those. They just do such, good stuff on there for, you might turn the channel on and see something about wheat that you never even considered before, or that farmer. Whoever thought there was that many women in agriculture, the farmer part about a woman that's in agriculture. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, what are you doing now, Jimmy? What are you doing these days?
Shoot,
you're not racing cars, you're not roping steers, you're not selling ropes.
Oh, I tell you, just back there at the ranch at home, there's enough to do. You get up every day, the list is long. It's build a fence or fix that, or something's broke or tore up, or Murphy's Law. I didn't tell you that. He lives in my back bedroom of the house, so something's always messed up. But it's all good. And shoot, I'm 60 years old now, and my dad has been gone 10 years. My brother's in the trucking business. He hauls parts for Peterbilt. So life's been good to all of us. Our health's all good, and I try anymore. All in the prior life, you go 1,000 miles an hour, and like today, here we are taking this in. Before, I'd blow in here and blow out, and here you are. The microphone messed up for a minute. And Cody said, "Oh, I know you got to go." I said, "Cody, I don't have to go. I got all day." I mean, so kind of looking at some stuff and seeing stuff you never saw before. And if you see a homemade ice cream sign along the road, you stop in and get some homemade ice cream. Isn't that what this life's all about, baby?
Sounds like he's living his best life to me, Jimbo.
Sounds like it. Now, you should when you get to be that age. It's time to slow down and smell the roses.
Oh, no, it's not time to slow down.
Well, but just enjoy. You enjoy things. You were going 100 mile an hour before, and a guy needs to just sit back and enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah, but
he did get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and drive to Pawhuska, Oklahoma.
Well, yeah. I get up at 5. I'm retired now, and I get up at 5:15 every 7 days a week. But I like to enjoy things. I like to pet the dog.
Yeah, I brought my friend Cowboy Joe Watkins up here. He rides cutting horses and rode with all the big cutters years ago. And I said, Joe, we got to get up at 1 o'clock and go. And he goes, why we got to go at 1? I said, Joe, by the time we get up there and go see Cody, and we're going to go see the Woolrack Museum and kick around up here, I mean, we're going to run out of time. So we got to go. We got to go. We're going to miss something.
Jimbo?
Did you go to Woolrack?
No, we're going to go.
You're going to love it. It's a great place.
Wonderful place.
Unbelievable. And then there's that museum over there in Bartlesville, and you got Cody's, and I don't know. Before you never take in the stuff. And there's so much in life that's in this great country that you got to take it in. There's so much there's so many other people who've done so many great things, and then over there, Don Johnson from Denton, Texas, he was an All-American basketball player over there at Bartlesville, and I stopped in that museum a while back, and I just saw a blimp of him, and I think it was in 52 and 54, but he grew up there, not grew up, but he lived in Denton, had Phillips 66 dealerships and gas stations, but he played basketball for him, and there was his picture up there, so that warmed my heart.
Cody, Phillips had a basketball team that could have beat some of the NBA teams. Back then, the money wasn't that big in the NBA, and they could make more money working for a corporation like Phillips than they could in the NBA. So they had some unbelievable teams at Phillips back in the day.
Yeah, and if you ever get to that museum, just upstairs, like all those, if you're a basketball fan, all those guys, and he played for Coach Iba, which is a legend, and but he's a character, boy. And I'll tell you one story on him. He was so good to me years ago. I bought a piece of land down there, and I'd put up $60,000 non-refundable on a $400,000 piece of land. And that's kind of, if I wouldn't have bought that land, I sure didn't make any in the steer business other than the great memories and meeting the great people to add up. But anyway, so the savings and loan company went bankrupt the day I was supposed to fund. They were supposed to fund the rest, and I'd have put up $60,000 non-refundable. And so my attorney said, I can get you one more day. And back then, my dad, he was maxed out, probably had $500,000 borrowed on Smith Brothers, which wasn't a lot, but it was a lot back then to us. And then I probably had $500,000 worth of steers money borrowed on steers, which, any banker, barely give it to you every time you went in there to get it. So anyway, I looked around for a day and a half, and I couldn't find anybody to loan me the money. And who wants to loan a kid, 25 years old, $300,000 last minute, and so I went around and I asked about 6 people that I knew had money. They said, one of them said, I'm just too old for that. My wife would get mad at me, or my husband would get mad. So finally, at 11 o'clock at night, I thought, I'll go see old Don Johnson. And so I rolled in there. God be my witness. I rolled in there, and he was sleeping in a chair. And I said, Don, what's going on? We visited in there for a minute. He said, what are you doing out this late? And I said, well, here's what happened. So he said, after I told him that the mortgage company went bankrupt and couldn't fund the other $300 and I don't remember, $80,000 and $320. And so he goes, well, son, why didn't you come see me first? He said, go back there and get in bed, and we'll get up and go to the bank the next morning. I'll take care of it. And then the next morning we went to the Crum Bank, Crum, Texas, and he walked in and he told the banker, he said, Bond Andrews, get this boy fixed up. I got to go. I'll see you. And I don't know to this day if he co-signed or guaranteed. He did one of them, but I paid the note off. But, just breaks like that you get in life that, if I wouldn't have had him do that on that land, I sold the land. That's really the only money that, you got where you can move forward and go reinvest it. But, you never know where your break's going to come from or when in life. You always got to be ready for that.
Jimbo, you got anything else for Jimmy over here today?
Oh, just great to catch up with him again. Hadn't seen him in so long. And I'll say this, he's the kind of guy that, I know this from personal experience, that you didn't need a contract. Just his word and a handshake was all you needed. And that's getting harder to find all the time.
Yeah, I always, my dad was that way. He did whatever he said. And, I can't tell you how many times, you lose money. You know that, Cody. That, Jimbo.
All day, every day.
Y'all are the same. You do what you say you're going to do, and that's what's kind of wrong with this country. We're from this cut of cloth that you do what you say you're going to do, even if it costs you, staying up all night and doing this and this, or it costs you, $10,000. That you back up your word, and that's what you do. So,
right. Absolutely.
Boy, howdy, Jimmy. I was going to ask you some advice on something, but you just answered all the advice anybody's ever going to need right there.
Cody, with your personality, go for it, baby. Just go for it. I hope your wife's not listening down the road. See, a little while ago, she was back here hooking this up, and I said, boy, you keeping Cody in line, keeping all this going. She goes, we don't need any more new deals. I'm sure Cody gets up at midnight and says, hey, we could go do this, in this town of Pawhuska, and this and this. And she says, no, Cody, let's just stay with the museum and the bucking flamingo.
Oh, yeah. We got some other stuff going on.
I know you do. You're not sleeping.
It's real good, fun.
And Jimbo, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yes, sir.
Jimmy.
Good to see your family on the wall in here, and all the great Snively family. I've enjoyed y'all over all the years, and seeing your family come down there and all y'all, and all the other great ropers. You meet so many great people coming through, from different genres of life. And then, I think what I regret most is so many people said from different genres of life. Like Delbert Kyler told me, a few years ago, he's been gone now, a couple years. He said, Jimbo, come see me, I'll cook us a steak. And you keep putting it on the list and putting it on the list and putting it on the list. And then he's passed, Yeah. It's just, so many neat people. You need to go see them when they're alive,
That's right.
So anyway, thank y'all, and thank everybody one more time. And then get up here and come see old Cody. He's got it going on up here, I'm telling you. He can probably give you 10% off, too.
Yeah, I'll do that for you.
Okay, that's my man, Cody.
Just ask for the Jimmy Smith deal. We'll give it to you.
Hey,
Jimmy, thank you, man.
Hey, thank y'all very much.
We really appreciate you coming up today, and don't make it this long before you come up see us again, all right?
All right, we'll be back. Thank you.
All right, see everybody next week right here on the Cowboys of the Osage podcast. Thank y'all.